We're not ready. She needs another.
Wanda needs to sign one, and Donna needs to sign over there. She.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They didn't even offer me the opportunity to sign.
Yeah, she's out the blue. What,
Here,
Lisa?
my love. Okay, you don't know what you signed.
And we appreciate that $10,000 donation.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody and thank you for being here. And we will start off by saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's about to fall. Or sign.
And just a reminder, there is a sign-in if you didn't sign in already, if you'd like to. And do we have any revisions?
You have the revised agenda. I think it's correct as it is now, as long as you've got the right one. I think that's going to actually say. Well,
He's already tore it up.
I think evidently the way it's made, we'll have to put something behind it. I hate for everybody on YouTube to see it and it's crooked, but I guess we'll have to live with it. You know that's going to aggravate me, the whole, you know.
It's okay. Okay, first on the agenda, we have our recognitions, and we will start off with our mountain movers.
Well, we're always excited to recognize our mountain movers each month, and I think, is this our first month back? We did them last month, or is this the first? This first ones for the year, so good to get started back. Well, we're going to start out with our certified mountain mover, and I'm going to ask Mr. Sean Gray. Is he here? Evidently, Mr. Gray was not able to make it, but Sean teaches math at Estill County Middle School, and he drove a truck for 17 years, and he decided to go back to school, and he finished his degree while driving across the country. So Sean said he fell in love with the middle school and middle school students last year, and he says he has a lot in common with them because they are quirky and awkward, just like him. And he done a fantastic job last year, and we're very excited to recognize him tonight. And I know that our classified mountain mover had something come up and was not able to be with us tonight, but our classified mountain mover is Mr. Alan Plowman, and he's a custodian at Estill County High School, and he's been in this position for the last 5 years, and he started with our district doing traffic control and student services. And Alan says he's like the people he works with at the high school, and he enjoys the students, and Alan does a fantastic job out there at the high school. So congratulations to both Alan and Sean as our mountain movers for this year, this month, September. And then I'd like to recognize our community mountain mover, and our community mountain mover this month is Meads Do It Center. So do we have representatives from Meads? Ladies, if you'd introduce yourself to everyone.
I'm Tina Arvin.
And Brenda Horn.
And Tina and Brenda, we're so excited to recognize you all as the first mountain movers of the year for our community. And of course, Meads being a local business, you always depend on your local community and businesses to support your schools. And Meads Do It Center opened the doors in 1944, so they've been in business for 75 years, and they have over 20 employees. And the employees stated that working at the Do It Center allows them to maintain that small business feel by interacting with the customers in their community on a personal level. And we appreciate what you all do for us as a school system, so this month we're honored to present you all with a certificate for being our mountain mover. And also, I'll give you the Medal of Excellence. And we always let everybody wear the Medal of Excellence. So, and we present this each year. So if y'all would, we appreciate you all for what you do.
Thank God.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Jackson Energy.
Miss Isaacs, if you would, if you'll come forward, and I'm going to ask Mr. Rodney Hitch and Mr. Ryan Henderson to come forward also from Jackson Energy. They have a presentation.
Ms. Miller, if you'll join us, please. We have started a new initiative in our district this year, and Ms. Tanya Miller has really been at the head of that. She is working with all of our elementary teachers in science this year. And so we have actually started implementing Project Lead the Way, which are STEM activities, right, Ms. Miller? Anything else, how would you like to describe it to the folks?
Project Lead the Way, it really teaches our students skills that they need to be successful in today's world as well as a future world. It focuses on technology and communication as well as teamwork, perseverance, and critical thinking. So it's something that I think will really benefit the students as we continue to move forward with this.
The teachers have really been receptive to her coming in the classroom and modeling and doing all kinds of activities with our students, and they really do enjoy it. So we have Mr. Rodney Hitch here. Now, are you from Moorhead?
I am.
Okay. For Moorhead.
Is that a good thing or bad?
That's good. That's good. They have to say a lot. Thank you. And Mr. Ryan Henderson from Jackson Energy. So they want to make a presentation tonight. I'm glad they're here.
Thank you, Superintendent Board. We really appreciate you letting us come in. Rodney Hitch, I'm Director for Economic Development for Jackson Energy and the other 15 co-ops, electric co-ops, that make up the majority of Touchstone Energy. And my role is to work in bringing business, keeping business all across the state. And Ryan has allowed me to go ahead and kick this off. 5 years ago, we began a workforce development initiative, working with the state of Kentucky, with Moorhead State University, University of Pike, and One Union College. And we were trying to build the largest STEM trained workforce in the nation. We ran into, as we're out trying to bring business into, especially Eastern Kentucky, there was a demographic that kept coming to us, and it was that we had some of the lowest number in National Board Certified Teachers and Master Holding Teachers and STEM Certified Teachers across 54 counties, really Congressman Rogers' 50th Congressional District of anywhere in the nation. And it's not a reflection of the education system, because we know we've got the best in the world. It was just because of different issues, and mainly probably expense and ability to get through some of that training. It was hindering some of our territories. So with the downturn of the coal economy, with the struggles of Eastern Kentucky, it was a good opportunity for us to try to look at doing things different. What could we do to change that demographic? What could we do to try to change the way that people somewhat looked at it just because of a demographic? And we created Solar STEM based on the Shaping Our Appalachian Region, that effort that's all across Eastern Kentucky, and to create STEM workforce. Well, we knew that it had to start with the teachers. Everything has to be built off the foundation of education and teachers. So we looked across 27 counties in Eastern Kentucky, and we asked the superintendents and the principals to pick the best and the brightest. We wanted the 100 elite teachers across those counties that could manage and could accomplish something really almost impossible. They had to get a master's degree, a national board certification, and their STEM certification in 3 years. Any one of those three is plenty. Still had to teach, still had to have life, but they had to give up weekends and holidays and all the things that, what little time they had from this I'm married to a teacher, so I don't know what it's like. They had to dedicate 3 years of their life to this program. And tonight we're recognizing Tanya Miller. She has accomplished what very few could. Out of those 100 elites over the last 4 years, we've had 81 graduate, and we're happy for you to be one of those. So she's obtained these wonderful accomplishments. And as you were saying earlier, she's also received the ability now to go back into your school system and start training other teachers. You know, that's how this is how it grows, how it continues to expand. So all of these 100 are going back now into their school districts, and they're sharing this knowledge and sharing the tools. And Jackson Energy, we're really happy to bring you about $5,000 worth of extra robotic kits, which I know you're very familiar with. And those are for you. To assist you in your classroom. Brian has a new Dell laptop for you to take. I was going to see if it'd be possible to have the board maybe join us for a picture. Kentucky Living Magazine, which you're familiar with, would like to have a story in there about Tanya. Have a picture of all of you. Thank you very much. Superintendent, please. We couldn't have done this without you. Whatever you want us to.
We're about to go
Miss Isaacs, can you come in the picture too?
Yes,
please.
Couldn't have done it without you. If I could get a copy of that picture.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for everything. You're amazing, and we really appreciate what you've accomplished. And Ryan also, I think, has a check that he wants to present to you this summer to go even above that. Because the superintendent and Estill County School System, we had additional teachers that were allowed and supported to go to a STEM camp that was above what was required. And so we wanted to make sure to reimburse you for the expense that you had to put out to let those teachers go. So Ryan has, I think it's $1,300, I believe so. So thank you very much. But on behalf of Jackson Energy, we just appreciate all you do. You're great partners with us, and anytime you need anything, you let us know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you don't mind, we may slip out. I'm going to head back to Moorhead.
All right. Be safe.
Well, we're very thankful for Jackson Energy, and we're thankful for their support of this program. And just so you all know, and our community knows, this is just the first step of implementing Project Lead the Way in our school system. And over the next 2 years, as the Area Technology Center comes to pass and that building is completed, we've already identified a middle school teacher that will be also become certified in Project Lead the Way activities, and we hope to move these STEM initiatives from our middle school into our high school and on into the Career Tech Center. So
that's great.
We're going to continue, and the board has made that commitment to do so as part of the Work Ready Skills Initiative grant that gave us $5.7 million for our new Area Technology Center. So that's part of their commitment as part of that process. And I will thank Ms. Isaacs too. Ms. Isaacs coordinates our national board certification for our teachers, and you know, we've had several teachers now complete, and we're looking forward to an announcement here in the next couple of months, just a few weeks away, of another group of national board certified teachers. And that's part of our effort to make sure that we have teacher leaders in our schools that can help our principals so that we can meet the needs of our kids. So thank you all, thank you for what you do.
As we were saying earlier, we started out as being one of the lowest in the nation, and because of the program and what you're talking about, we now moved up to one of the top in the nation. So we really appreciate it very much. And if I could get a copy of that picture, and if you ever need anything, you please.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before you go
I'll give you the check. I can trust you. Wow. Notice I didn't give it to one of you girls. I didn't know where you all take off with it.
Where you gonna buy dinner? Okay, next on the agenda, we have the Gear Up.
Well, good evening. My name is Sandra Hall, and I'm one of the program managers with the New Year Opportunity Grant that's at February College. And so we're here tonight just to tell you a little bit about what's going to be going on with Gear Up in the middle school this year. So we're getting ready to start year 2 of this particular Gear Up grant. We actually just finished a Gear Up grant called Gear Up Appalachia here about a year and a half ago. And so what we do is we follow students from their 6th and 7th grade year all the way up to their first year of college, and we help prepare them for college and career. So we do a lot of different activities to help do that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of turn it over to our folks here that are in the school, let them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they're going to be doing with your 7th and 8th graders this year. Now, this isn't by any means everything that they're going to be doing, because they do a whole lot. So this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. But we definitely want to share out what good stuff that they're doing this year. And I did want to mention that one of our career college navigators, Suzanne White, is not feeling too well tonight, so she couldn't make it. But I did want to recognize her too, because we really appreciate y'all got some great folks here, and we're super excited to have them on our team, part of our group.
I'm Blake Crow. I'm math academic interventionist at the middle school.
And I am Trisha Patterson, and I'm the reading academic interventionist at the middle school.
And I'm Hannah Eaton, and I'm a college and career navigator for the 8th grade. And Suzanne will be taking the 7th grade, so next year I'll go to the high school with this class and so on and so forth. We've been working hard to provide many opportunities for our students at the middle school. Feel free to look at all of our display boards that's kind of shown up in your board meeting room. We've been working hard. We've had a lot of our Gear Up Club students help put these together. So our academic interventionists are continuing to do classroom collaboration and pull kids out for math and reading intervention groups. We will also be administering the CERT test next week for our 7th and 8th graders. The outcome data will be helpful in preparing students for the ACT through that test. This summer, the AIs are also taking a group of students for a STEM summer camp to Newton's Attic. Myself and Suzanne were the college and career navigators, so we will continue to offer job shadowing opportunities and college visits. And we'll be starting a couple of new services soon. One's called Check and Connect, which is a weekly mentoring program. And we'll also be implementing Dave Ramsey's financial literacy for middle schoolers. So that should be fun for them. And we will all continue to collaborate with Mike Flynn and the Youth Service Center. We do monthly family night events. It's been really great to have Mike as our point of contact. He's a very seasoned pro at Gear Up and all things grants. So having his help has been great. And we feel very supported by our district and all the staff at Three College. So we're really thankful for that opportunity to get to do this with our students. So thank you all for having me.
And if you all ever have questions or need anything, you can feel free to reach out to one of us, and we're more than happy to help out. But like I said, we're super excited to be back at Estill County this year and for the next 6 years after this, finishing up this career grant. So just let us know if you've ever got any questions. So thank you so much for having us out tonight. Oh, yeah. Thank you all so much.
Oh, thank you. Just so you all will know, and if you all would, we have a proclamation that we will have signed for you, and we'll be sending it to you. That way I know that's part of one of the requests that we had from the Gear Up office. So the board, or everybody will know that proclamation says, whereas gaining early awareness and readiness for undergraduate programs, which is Gear Up, is a federally funded program designed to increase the number of students who stay in school and succeed in post-secondary education, and whereas Gear Up focuses on students from low-income and underserved communities who might be the first person in their family to go to college, and whereas Gear Up Opportunity serves over 9,645 students in 37 schools in 13 high-poverty counties, Gear Up has enabled thousands of students to achieve the dream of going to college as a result of grants awarded since 1999. And whereas the Estill County Board of Education is committed to providing a quality education for all students, helping them to achieve their highest potential, now therefore, I, Jeff Saylor, Superintendent of Estill County School District, and members of the Estill County Board of Education, Brian Covey, Rhonda Hardy, Donna Isford, Jenny Neese, and Sheila Samples do hereby proclaim September 23rd through 27th, 2019 as Gear Up Week in the Estill County School District, and we encourage all people in the Estill County community to join us in this special observance. And again, we'll sign that this coming week, and we'll get that to you all. So thank you all
Thank
for
you so
what you do
much.
for our kids.
Thank you.
And I think we do also have one action item.
Is that the the
Yeah,
budget?
the memorandum of agreement and budget.
Do we have a motion?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right, passes.
Good deal. And that was to approve the budget
Budget.
for this coming year, and that budget is in the neighborhood of about $300,000. And of course, the school district does match that budget. So we are thankful for Gear Up and what they do for our students.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Estill Springs. Thank you.
Can I give you one of the front? I'll be over to the stage.
Good evening, I'm Jessica Mullins, the principal at Estill Springs, and I'm here tonight to talk to you a little bit about some stuff that's going on this fall at Estill Springs. One of our proudest moments here at Estill Springs this year was being featured in KEDC's Charge Grant Stories of Success, which is an article that was actually presented to the National Institution in Washington, D.C. So they chose to feature us, and I've given our board members a copy. Matthew, where do I just use this mouse? Will it work? I can touch it? Okay. I'm not going to read the entire thing to you.
Oh, shut it down.
What did I touched it. I'll talk about it while he's pulling it up. The gallery walk was an adventure that our charge teachers took on in the spring of last year. You know, we can't afford to take our students, no school can afford to take their students to every park in Kentucky that you want to visit, or to visit we can't do that. There's not enough time. We wouldn't be able to provide instruction. So what we chose to do was to provide a gallery walk for our students where each wing chose a theme. Kindergarten, for example, chose Kentucky symbols. First grade chose famous people in Kentucky. Second grade chose natural landmarks. And the yellow wing, which was enrichment and intervention, chose famous places in Kentucky. Each of those teachers and classrooms created a bulletin board along that theme. It also had to include 2 important pieces of information for the students to see. And many of the boards were interactive. So then the students could visit, we had it on a schedule, they could visit each and every bulletin board to view or visit virtually in a certain way those important places in Kentucky. The Charge Grant director that we work with, Wendy King, was so moved by our gallery walk that she had actually had several people from around the state. She sent them pictures or had them stop by and visit. So it was a really proud moment for us, and something that I think helped us to stand out from other schools across the state. And I'll show you a couple pictures. I'm not going to touch the screen. I'll just let you scroll down for me, Matthew. This is the article that was released. But if you see here, this is a group of students who visited the Moonbow. It says, "We saw the Moonbow." Here we have students who are visiting Mammoth Cave. We have the Daniel Boone National Forest. This was one of my favorite bulletin boards, which was all about Abraham Lincoln. It contained facts, and then the students could turn the card over to read more. It was a life-size representation of Lincoln's height, and then the side of his body was one of the buttons that you could push, and it had the Gettysburg Address. Our administrative secretary, whose office is beside of that, said if she ever hears the Gettysburg Address again, she has it memorized now. But here were some different facts about Cumberland Falls. So this was a really proud moment, something that we're going to reproduce in a little bit of a different fashion, but we're going to continue to do. You know, there's not enough instructional days for us to also take our students to all of these places around Kentucky, but we want to make sure that they still have the opportunity to know as much as they can about this great state. Matthew, when he gets logged in here, we want to show you something that we did for Constitution Day, which we were really proud of. You have to really step back and think, how can you explain the importance of Constitution Day to a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old? So in many of the classrooms, they created their own classroom preamble. We talked about what a preamble was. And then you can, let's go ahead and start it. The students made a video of the preamble. This is each classroom. So all of our students were represented. They all, like I said, learned about the preamble, but they also created their own grade level, classroom level preambles. And I really can't say enough about what the charge grant is bringing into our school. I feel like when the social studies standards came out, that the charge grant has given power to the teachers and clarity so that they can be very intentional when coming back into the classroom to share that knowledge with our students. So we're excited to see what additional things will come from the charge grant. And we see that the work with Project Lead the Way with Ms. Miller is putting the same type of intentional strategies into the classroom from the science level. So it's a really strong year for us, I can already tell, in the areas of social studies and science. And that's exciting because we all know, when I think back on elementary school, those were some of my favorite experiments and subject areas, and it seems like the state has lost its focus in that area in the past, and so we're really excited to see it take that turn back. But we welcome, we'll make sure and continue to share information on our Facebook page and on our website. Feel free to take a look at our Facebook page if you want to see that again, because I did watch it about 5 or 6 times. Thank you all.
I just wanted to add real quick that I really appreciate Ms. Charlotte O'Brien for coordinating the charge grant here at the district office, and also with KDC, Ms. Wendy King has been working in our district quite a bit, and I appreciate those efforts very much.
Okay, next on the agenda we have facilities, and first up we have Estill Springs update and a closeout.
we've got a lot of good news for facilities tonight, and Peter and I'm gonna lose his name here. Kenny Davis from Codell. Neither one of them actually, I told neither one of them they had to come tonight. There wasn't a lot to explain, but we'll start with the Estill Springs update and close out. That project is pretty much complete. There's just a few little touch-up things that has to be done. Ross Tarrant will be back in the district this coming week, and we'll meet with Jessica and her staff to just go through different items to make sure that everything is on par there, and you should have closeout documents on that project in October. Angie's working on getting the BG5s ready, which will close that project out. So that's for Estill Springs.
Okay.
You want me to just go
Sure,
on through them?
absolutely.
I'm sorry, that way. The roof replacement, update and closeout on it. Both roofs are completed, and you have closeout letters on both of them. And we'll do the walkthrough next week just to make sure there's not any little things that's sitting there. Same deal, closeout documents for the October meeting with the BG5s complete at that time. So that's the first two. It's easy to, just updates. Now with the land purchase, as you know, it's been a process, but we are at the point in time that we can move forward and purchase the property. So I have this document for you. I thought I had them all together. I didn't. Here's one. Just pass them like that. I'll eventually get them right. And I have a couple other documents here if anybody wants them. The first item is the letter from KDE that gives us the approval to go ahead and purchase the property, which of course we pretty much, during this time, we've made it known that we were going to purchase this 130-acre tract, which is the old Puckett farm that sits. The majority of that property sits directly across from Estill County High School. So my first recommendation to you all is that we move forward with the final approval to purchase the Puckett property for $230,000, and that's my recommendation.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we purchase the Puckett property.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right.
And let me just add, I do want to thank the board because this has been a long process, and they know what kind of process that it's been because we've looked at property all over this county. And to be able to find a piece of property that would fit the needs of the school district was very important to us. And this property, no, we don't need the entire 130 acres right now. But what this will allow is for the school district in the future, any future plans that this district may have, long after this board and I myself, we're no longer sitting here, the board will have options when it comes time, at some time in the future, 15, 20 years from now, when we need to build a new middle school or whether you want to build a new high school at that time, this property is going to be available and will be there, and that board will not have to beat themselves in the head trying to find somewhere to build a building. So I do appreciate the fact that you all were looking into the future, just not with blinders on needing something for the moment, but you're looking into the future, and this piece of property will meet the needs of our school district. The next item is that because of right now, the only building that we're going to be building on this piece of property is the new transportation facility, the new bus garage. So the price of the property, there's KDE regs that any time that if there is over 10%, if there's a 10% cost above the total cost of the project of the building that you're going to be building, then it takes the Board of Education's approval, the Kentucky State Board, to buy that piece of property. And because you're looking at a bus garage, it's going to be somewhere around right about 220, somewhere in there, 230. The State Department just felt like that, hey, we want the State Board to approve this. It's just a formality. It's something that we have to do. On your new agenda, we did list there what the KAR was for that Kentucky Administrative Regulation. And that regulation states that you have to ask the Kentucky Board of Education to approve this purchase. So that's my recommended motion, is that we request approval from the Kentucky Board of Education to purchase the property.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Next item, bus garage update. The bus garage has went to bid. It went to bid earlier this week. I already know that we've had over 10 contractors that's already picked up documents. So we're going to have a lot of interest in this facility, and hopefully what that's going to do is going to result in pretty good market. Maybe we can see a lot better price, and maybe it'll come in at a price that's below what it's projected to come in at. But that's pretty much the update. We have a pre-construction meeting coming up here next week, I believe it is, and then this project will bid, I think it's October the 10th. So we'll be opening bid documents here at the Board of Education 2 o'clock on October 10th on the bus garage. So at that point in time, we'll know what that building's going to cost and who is going to be the contractor. And that's good news there. So that project is moving forward as well. Now the Area Technology Center. As you know, the site development or the site demolition for that piece of property was separated out so we could go ahead and get a head start on getting this facility started. And we have now completed that site demo, and the final pay app is there in front of you from Codell Construction. And the final pay app to close out that part of the project is $78,377.90. So at this time, I ask that you, or the recommended motion would be that you would approve pay app 2 for the site demo for the Area Technology Center.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? All right.
B part was consideration approval of a deductive change order. That project actually bid at about $230,000, but they did not run into some of the problems that they thought they could possibly run into with the pyritic shell, which is something that has to be taken into consideration on that property. Also, when they removed the diesel and gas tanks, the fuel tanks that was on that property, those tanks were in pristine shape and there'd been no leakage. So there was no EPA cleanup or anything required for that. So with that being said, what now happens is that the balance of that contract becomes a deductive change order, and it goes back into the contingency for that project. So what you have to approve this change order, but this change order doesn't cost the board anything. You're going to receive $81,725 back from the construction cost of this project. And again, they'll put that money in contingency to be used as if any other problems develop as we move forward on the Area Technology Center. So my recommendation is to approve deductive change order number 1 for the site demo. And again, it is a credit of $81,725.
You making a motion, Dawn?
That's a good one to make a motion.
We have a motion. You have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? All right.
Well, as you know, we've been, now that the EDA, we had the announcement of the $4 million, and of course what happens at that point, there's always federal guidelines and federal procedures that has to be met, and we got our documentation into EDA, and they've been looking at the title for the property and some different things. And I couldn't quite keep it quiet today. I had to tell 2 people, but I am telling you today, they approved the project to move forward, and we are going to bid Monday. So we will go to bid Monday. As of right now, that bid opening will be October 24th, which means construction will start the first week of November. So that is an update on your EDA project, and that was good news today. That's been something that's been on my plate, and I've been worrying about. Didn't have any doubts that we'd get it done. It was just a matter of getting the process, and we've lost maybe a couple weeks. But overall, this was probably a pretty quick process. It's usually a 6-week process for EDA to approve those items. We've been about 4. So they've really worked hard, and Stacy called today and said, you'll get your paperwork next week, but I'm giving you verbal approval to go ahead. So the documents are at the printers. They'll print them tomorrow. They'll go on the street Monday of next week. So hopefully by October 24th, we'll know what the final cost of that facility is going to be.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have approve the FY20 working budget.
Angie, I'm going to ask that you come up, and what I asked Angie to do was, of course, you get your budget, and as you know, it's a pretty thick document for you to thumb through, and what I asked her to do, and I can tell you right now that there has been very few changes to what you all approved in May. We had a $1.6 million contingency in May. You still have a $1.6 million contingency in this budget. Angie and different members of the district office staff, we've been working hard to try to make sure that we've got everything in the budget. There'll still be a few changes here and there in terms of things that may not cost exactly what we think they're going to be. We may receive more SEEK dollars than we thought we're going to receive. The interest rates have went down a little bit, but I think she's already made adjustments for those. They may go down again. We're hearing that there could be another rate cut coming somewhere in November. If that happens, then we could see interest income go down a little bit. But overall, I felt like, and I told Angie, do what you did last time. Put together that little one-pager that they can look at that sort of tells them this is where your money's at, this is where things are being spent. And so Angie, it's yours.
Okay. This budget is composed of several different funds. There's general fund, which is the one that we have the most discretion with. Fund 2 is your restricted or grant funds. Fund 310 is your capital outlay, and 320 is building fund. This is where the nickel is. Fund 400 is just a pass-through account for debt service. Money's transferred there, and debt service payments are made there. So it typically has a zero balance. It depends on how much is in escrow at the time that the payments are made. Fund 51 is your school food service. And if you start looking on page 1, you'll see the beginning balance there at $1.9 million. That is the unaudited ending balance from FY19. That may change, so we may have to make some adjustments in our budget after we get our audit back. It will be by November 15th. General property tax and motor vehicle, delinquent property tax, franchise tax, our utilities. You can see there, franchise tax is probably the strangest one, with last fiscal year actuals being $286,000, but the year before that was only 109, so we're kind of being conservative in that area. Are you all on the, it's on page 1, about the 6th line down. Utility tax, we're still being conservative. We're hoping for more. And as you go through, you can see the total local revenue is $2.8 million. If you move on to the next page, we've estimated SEEK at 10.5. We're hoping for better numbers with attendance and that, SEEK dollars will improve. Vocational reimbursement, or vocational transportation reimbursement, that's for transporting our children to the other vocational schools. As you move on down, of course, the biggest thing in our state revenue is SEEK. On behalf payments are included in federal revenue, or I'm sorry, in state, because that's what the state pays on our behalf. Federal revenue is the Medicaid reimbursement. That's for our speech services that we provide our students. And as you move on down, there's transfers. Those are from indirect costs from a couple of different funds. As you move down, you'll see the $40,000 for loss compensation. That's an insurance claim on some storm damage. We have received that check this week, actually, and it was a little bit better than that, so that's good news. Our total revenue for FY20 is projected at $19.6 million, which includes our 1.9 beginning balance. And then as you move through on page 5.
Before you go on, Angie, is there any questions about any of the revenue sources? And again, the one-pager sort of just sums up what those revenue sources are, where they come from in terms of the revenue. But basically, your revenue deals with two things. You've got your SEEK dollars, you've got your local tax revenue, and then you've got reimbursements for programs, for instance, like preschool.
No, that's the Community Action Council, actually.
So that's Community Action Council that refunds those teaching positions. There's different items that we're reimbursed for, but that is your total revenue there of $19,624,000 and some change. Any questions about that? Okay, expenditures.
Okay. Expenditures are broken down in different functions, and you can see like Function 1000 is instruction, which includes everything related to a classroom, whether it's teachers or materials. That also includes the fringe benefits for those teachers and staff. We have that projected at $9.6 million. And as you move down, of course, student support services, that's like your counselors, your speech teachers, anything that actually supports the classroom, OT, different things that make the students successful or help to make the students successful in the classroom. We have that budgeted at $1.2 million. Instructional staff support services is $2,200. That's librarians, any kind of technology things. And we have the one-to-one devices are in there. District administrative support. That's anything related to the board activities. That includes any legal services, auditing, anything that the board has to pay for as a district. That's at $898,000. $2,400 is school administrative support. That includes any type of administration at the schools, principals, assistant principals, secretaries to the principals, those kinds of things, any kind of supplies that they might need in that administration role. $2,500, business support services. That's business office, anything associated with the daily operations of the district, supervision of technology personnel, any of those costs. There's some costs in there for software fees that we have to have for the different software programs that we're required to have. That's at $655,000. Plant operations and maintenance is $2,600, and that's anything with maintaining our buildings and grounds, any kind of utility cost, custodial supplies for all the district, anything that's related to the facilities. Now, that does not include any kind of construction. This is totally general fund. So, transportation is function 2700. That's anything related to transporting our students to and from school, and also includes fuel and bus cost. And we do have 2 new buses in this budget. Function 3100 is food service operations. That's anything that costs associated with providing a duty-free lunch to staff. And then you'll see the next actually function that has a number is 5100, which is debt service. This is for KISTA payments for buses. And then Fund 5200 is fund transfers at $45,000. That's the CATS match that we are required to make. We moved that $45,000 to Fund 2, and the state matches that. 5300 is contingency, and we have that budgeted at $1.6 million. And do you all have any questions about any of those expenditures, or why they're what they are? Or?
Why is there a difference in the on-behalf payments this time? Why'd they go up so much?
KTRS wasn't posted in total when the AFR had to be in.
There are even big differences from last year with some of those.
Those will probably change when.
What's funny is those on-behalf payments, they show up in your budget. That money never comes into the district. It's just there. You have to show it, and that's part of the pension reform that took place several years ago in terms of the fact that they just want you to know as the board that it's really a liability to the Board of Education. All those on-behalf payments are. If anything happens with the pension system, they're just putting you on alert. It's your baby, but we're in the same boat that every other school district in the state is when it comes to those items.
That's the part of health insurance that the state pays for our employees also. Health insurance, dental, vision, and some retirements. But if you'll see on page 3, those amounts are budgeted, but they're also a revenue item at $3.7 million. So it's a wash. It's really not even a part of the budget, if you will. It's the same amount goes in and out.
And you never see it.
No, you never see it.
Do y'all have any questions about any of the expenditures? And of course, this does include the 1% raise. This budget does, so.
And step.
And step increases, that is correct. So feel like it's a good budget. We've always tried to keep about a $1.6 million contingency, and that caused a couple years ago as a board, Sheila, but even before you became a board member, there was items in our school district that needed to be addressed, and you see some of those items, especially in maintenance items and purchasing school buses. We just had to make a commitment. I know when I first got here, I think our contingency was about $1.9 million. And if we don't have buses to get kids to school, and if we don't have good facilities, it just doesn't. You can see the work that our maintenance staff has done. We We added some maintenance personnel. We've spent money at our schools, like, for instance, little things like sealing blacktop parking lots at our schools. It's going to provide those parking lots. They're going to stick with us a lot longer. We're not going to have to re-blacktop them at some point. Just preventative maintenance type items that in the past seemed like we never got around to. Well, we're trying to do that, and we can always pull back if there's a budget problem, but right now, budget's been pretty good. We're starting to see a lot of items get taken care of, and because of some of the cuts and personnel that we've been able to make. And you hate to cut personnel, but when your student population is going down, it's just part of it. But we're starting to see some of these cuts and some of the cost-saving measures that we've taken over time, that we're able to start getting a lot of things done. So I feel like we've got a good working budget. We normally don't go through Fund 2 and the other items, but they are in there. And of course, some of the Fund 2 items, we don't even have like for rural and low income, we've not even got an allocation yet. So those federal thing about those federal grants is that they don't start to October 1. So they run from October to September 30th. So we don't even have a lot of those budget items yet, but she's tried to put together a budget for those items best we can. Anything else you want to add in?
If you look on page 42, there's kind of a summary of each fund and the actual balance in that fund. Fund 350 is no longer used. You'll see zeros there. And Fund 360, there's a zero balance because until you have a construction project, you don't budget for it until the current year. So we will have that shortly. Do you all have any questions or?
So total budget fund, all fund sources right now about 26 million. And you're getting ready to sell about $7 million worth of bonds on these two projects.
And I did get a notice this week that the federal funds rate went down, but with our agreement with the bank, the way our fund is set, or our agreement is, our interest rate didn't go down, so it's good news.
I'd say next time we have another cut, it may very well, but right now it's okay. If there's not any other questions, then my recommended motion would be to approve the working budget for the FY20 school year.
Do we have a motion? Sheila? Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? All right, it is approved. Moving on, next on the agenda, we have our consent or action items.
As you go through those there, of course, we've got our minutes. We've got, you had a new grant that was wasn't a grant really, it was just an approval agreement for EKU for their student teachers to be able to work here in Estill County. And I think Felicia put those in your packets. We also have the request for an emergency certification of a teacher in social studies. I just wanted to point that out to you all so that you would know that. Moving on down through there, we talked a lot about item F, which is for the ATC. The Grand Lodge of Kentucky and the local Masonic lodges would like to do a cornerstone ceremony for that building. And that's a pretty unique event. My understanding is basically they laid a cornerstone and they blessed the building. And I think that's very much something that I believe that we should support as a board. Also, the district assurances, and And that is a pretty good-sized document, but it's the same document you approve every year. And basically, what this document says is that we will follow all the guidelines and all of the rules and KRSs and Kentucky administrative regulations, that we will make sure that we follow all the guidelines that we have. And we have to do that, and you have to approve it as a board so that we will receive our federal funding. Without that, we cannot receive federal funding. We've got a physical therapy contract. We've also got Estill Springs has a school-wide fundraiser. We had to amend our inside investment lease for the one-to-one Chromebooks. As you remember, we received a $40,000 grant from the Still Reese Foundation to help buy student Chromebooks. So that means that we had to lease fewer computers. So we do have that in there for you to approve as well. And those, on the back side, you've got 3 out-of-state trips. And that is it for consent items. So my recommendation to you all would be that we would approve the consent items for September.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Next on the agenda, we have public comments.
The public is quiet tonight.
Okay. No one has comments. Next, we'll have the superintendent's report and the board member forum.
I'll try to be pretty brief, but you have your notification of personnel actions, and Felicia would be the first to tell you that we're approaching probably 100 different new contracts in the school district in terms of whether they're new employees or they're changing positions or they're changing hours or whatever. And her and the finance department, payroll department, they have been busy trying to get that taken care of, because guess what? Next Thursday is payday. So I think they're about to get it wrapped up. I did see today another change in a bus route came about. I'm sure that probably just added a little bit of, I guess, cream to the top of the sundae when that one came through today. Just, well, what's one more at this point, you know? So that one was taken care of. But another one, don't start that. You'll get run out of town. You may already be in trouble. But there is my activity report for the week. Also, we went to KSBA this Monday night over at Lee County and had a real good meeting over there and talked about the legislative agenda for the coming school year. And Donna and Rhonda and I were fortunate enough to go. I know the others had some other items on the track, but just so happened that Senator Stivers was there. And as you all know, Senator Stivers is the president of the Senate, and he had been conducting a little meeting. I walked in, of course I always do, I always introduce myself. I'm sure Senator Stivers sees a lot of people. As soon as I told him that I was from Estill County, of course he lit up. He remembered me from a meeting we had about 3 or 4 months ago. He said, I just want you to know we are going to take care of the operational funding of the Area Technology Center. He made the point to tell me I didn't have to ask him. And I know that is something that is out there that we're on faith. We have really went out there on faith to go ahead and bid a $13 million area technology building without operational funding for that building. But as the first thing he told me on Monday night, and as the best thing come out of that meeting for me, was that he was going to do it. And he said he had to do it because Senator Robinson would aggravate him to death if he didn't. So I know Senator Robinson has been a big supporter of that building. So that was also good news. I did include some information in there about a proposal for a clay target club. And I want you all to look at that. It's not something we have to move on tonight, but been speaking to a group for this particular activity. And if we do sponsor this activity, I've done a little bit of legwork on it. Our insurance company does not see it as a liability. There's no rider involved for us to support this activity. My next question was, what kind of cost is involved? And because of the clubs that's involved, there's really very little cost. There's really no transportation cost because it's done through an electronic mode through which they actually do their shooting here at the Estill County Sportsman Club, and they enter the results on the internet, so they don't have to travel anywhere. They just virtually compete against people. The other concern would be anytime you're dealing with, of course, in this case, shotguns, you worry about guns and ammunition and whether or not, you have guns and ammunition on campus. There's never any guns or ammunition on campus because everything's at the Sportsman Club. So I really don't see a reason why we don't sponsor it. I just want to do a little bit more checking on a couple other things. And I want you all to have time to look at it. I did ask, okay, if we were going to have a season tomorrow, and I think it's in the spring, I'm pretty sure, is what I remember from this. That's why I'm telling you we don't have to act tonight. But I believe there's 14 students that are interested that either currently shoot or want to shoot. And they range anywhere from 7th graders to 12th graders. My understanding is you have to have one coach or one sponsor for every 10 shooters. There's people that's wanting to volunteer, wanting to be part of that. It's no cost to us. They get trained at that. I do think if we do sponsor this, I do believe that we should do the same thing that we've done in our other sports activities, is that there's a $500 stipend for the head coach. In this particular case, if we have more than 10, we would need to sponsor another coach. Maybe you do an assistant coach at $250 or something like that, but they've not even asked for that. But the reason why I say that is that if we're going to sponsor it and they're going to be wearing our name, then we want to make sure that, number one, they're going to follow the rules and guidelines. We want to follow the same rules and guidelines that the High School Athletic Association has set forth for other sport activities. And then also what that does is that gives that coach insurance in terms of our liability policy when we hire them as an employee. So please take the time to look at that, and what I'm going to do is I'll bring that back to you next time. And if you've got any concerns about it, then you can talk about it and we'll do it then. Also, I know that y'all may not want to think about this, but I think our promise during the nickel was that as we move forward, I made it clear when we started this process, Estill Springs was my first priority. And the roof projects was our first priority because we can't have buildings that's leaking, and we had an elementary school that needed to be fixed. Our second priority was the Area Technology Center, and that Area Technology Center is going to bid as of Monday. So that's sort of out of the way. So the next thing we promised everybody was the high school renovation. And that high school renovation involves the athletic fields, and that was one of the big items that a lot of people supported the nickel tax because of the ability for us to update our athletic facilities. And some of our athletic facilities, we got some of the best playing surfaces around, but when it comes to ADA accessibility and sidewalks and just everything outside the fences, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I am already in the process of gathering information. What does it take to, what are we looking at in terms of the renovation at the high school, in terms of there needs to be a secure entrance at the high school, there needs to be lighting upgrades at the high school, there needs to be an HVAC renovation. Not that we're going to replace all equipment, but all of the HVAC system at the high school needs to be put under one control system where we can control the settings from the district level, which is going to mean a lot towards energy savings for our school district. which in turn helps the bottom line in the budget. So that's within the high school, but then baseball, softball, we know that we've got to have restroom facilities. The days of porta potties, I hope we've got one more spring and that's over with. And then either the renovation of the high school athletic complex where the football field is at. We can also explore building a new athletic complex on the property that you all agreed to purchase tonight. I'm gathering all that information right now. That's what this is going to cost, what this is going to cost, and all these different items. And as soon as these projects go to bid, we're going to know how much money we've got left. And then we're going to have to make some decisions, because we're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 to $10 million, and we probably got $20 million worth of need. So we'll have to make some decisions. But it's a lot better shape we were in 3 years ago when we had $2 million to our entire name. So, plus we've been able to complete all the projects that we've got going. So I know that there's a little bit of construction fatigue maybe, that seems like we've been dealing with construction, but listen, we don't need to stop now. Let's do what we told the people we were going to do. That's what we went out there and sold, and that's what we need to do. We need to be good stewards of the money we've been given, but we also need to keep our word. So that's what we intend on doing. So I will be, as you know, we can't meet over two of us at a time, but I can, talk to y'all as we go and sort of fill you in, and then we'll have to make some decisions coming up. I am going to ask you all, with your all's blessing, I mean, we sort of can do this. Within our calendar, we can have 7 staff days. Usually we do those because of snow and some other items. But our main focus, during opening day, we talked about the magic of kindness, and we talked about taking care of our employees and trying to take care of our kids in terms of mental health. And one of the big components of any mental health program is that you have to train your staff. Your staff has to know to look for us. We have to be able to know if we do have a student that comes to us, how we interact with that student, what the resources are that we need to interact with that student. And we've got a lot of different groups right now that's helping us in this endeavor, but there is a 6-hour training that our employees need, and they need it yesterday. And we got to talking about, okay, how are we going to do that? There's also another 3-hour training that goes along with this, that we're going to do that one after school at some point in time and schedule that one after school. But because Election Day is this year, we do have Election Day, and school is already called off on November 5th. With your all's blessing, I want to go ahead and have a staff work day on November 4th. So that means our students would not be in school on the 4th, which is a Monday, which is notoriously a bad attendance day anyway. I mean, it's not terrible by any means, but it's not one of our better attendance days. And our students will get a 4-day weekend, but our staff will report to work that day. And we're going to do a lot of mental health training and try to get this process in place that we can get this suicide prevention program up and off the ground in our school district. So if you all are okay with that, I don't see anybody ready to jump up and down on me, we're going to go ahead and announce tomorrow that November 4th is going to be no school, and it's going to be a staff work day. So our students will get a 4-day weekend, and our staff will report on Monday for that training, if everybody's okay with that. And then my growth plan, this is for you all. This is what we discussed at our last meeting, and this is my growth plan for the school year. And we said we were going to focus on instructional leadership and on cultural leadership. And I've sort of tried to highlight in those items what items that we're focusing on and some of the things that I will be doing. And the way we look at this in the office, if that's my professional growth plan, then this office also, it's part of their professional growth as we move forward in terms of trying to implement the things that we've talked about. And just so I can tell you what our focus is going to be on, we've got to have ownership. That's still something that sometimes that we want to look at, well, the district office wants this and the district office wants that. You know, we can't move forward if we don't have ownership. And listen, the district office isn't requesting anything. This school district, you just approved district assurances a minute ago. This school district has obligations that's set forth by the state of Kentucky. So we're going to make sure that we're going to meet those state obligations. And that's ownership. It's not the fact central office is requesting something, and forget what the state wants, forget what the central office wants. Let's talk about what our kids need. So we got to have ownership about where our kids are at, what they need to be successful, and move forward from there. We also want to continue to build leadership capacity. We want to continue to have educators like Tanya step up and become leaders in our school districts. We want to continue to focus on that, even through our NISL training and our leadership training for our administrators that we're doing. We want to continue focusing on continuous improvement. We started with continuous improvement in October of the first year when I became superintendent. We've not added anything to that. It's the same thing. We're trying to perfect what we started 4 years ago at this very time. So anybody that tells you, if you have any staff members or something says, if they add one more thing, I think I'm just going to quit. Well, bottom line is we've not added anything for 4 years. And that's the truth. So anybody that wants to say that something's being added, if it's being added, it's because it wasn't implemented when it was supposed to have been implemented 4 years ago. And then of course, we have to promote a positive vision and mission, and we have to continue to try to have positive relationships, and that's with everybody, students, parents, staff, community. And then this last one, if we're not preparing kids for college and career readiness, then we're missing the boat. That's where it's at, and that's what we've got to do, and everything we do focuses on that. So that's my growth plan. And I don't have anything else for you all, and I hope that didn't take too long. But
Anything from the board?
I would just like to say how proud I am of Miss Miller. I think she's pretty awesome.
we agree with you.
Absolutely.
I remember when she started out as a sub, she's come a long way. She was a wonderful sub, but she's even more wonderful teacher now.
And we've got a lot of Miss Millers in our school district. We've got good employees in this school district. Listen, I know that they're stressed out to no end. I know test scores come out today. We can't discuss them. We'll report them in October. I'm not even allowed to give you a thumbs up or thumbs down, right, Lisa? I can give this thumbs to the side. That's it. I can't say a word. I've got to be totally neutral. But we know that there's a lot of hard work out there, and hopefully, you know, I'm sure as a board, you'd like to give everybody a 10% raise. But even just giving a 1% raise to say, hey, we appreciate your efforts. We appreciate what you're doing. I know I appreciate their efforts. I know sometimes they think it's just something else, but now it's just part of the process. We've got work to do, because last May, we had students graduate from Estill County High School that we didn't meet all their needs. And we may never meet every single need that our kids have, but I think we can do a far better job than what we're doing right now. We're better than we were 4 years ago. We'll be better 4 years from now. So we'll continue to work hard, and I appreciate our staff. I appreciate teachers like Ms. Miller, and I appreciate our staff, our principals, our district office staff, and I appreciate everything they do. So.
And our attorney that came a long distance.
Our attorney that came long distance. He's expecting something tonight, and he just gets to sit here and listen to us. There you go. We appreciate him.
Okay. Now I need a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion.
All in favor?